Well, good morning, good evening, good night. I'm Ryan. This is 780 Speed and Custom. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel today. On our last episode, we rebuilt my 4L60E transmission. Today, we're going to be putting that transmission into my 1940 Ford pickup. Stick around. Alright, well, pretty straightforward. I still got to put the torque converter in, and I've just lightly bolted the pan up with 4 bolts, so I got to take that off, put the filter in, probably bolt it up. But I'm going to do that when it's in the truck because of my shift linkage and everything else. So I will do that. Got to get the truck in the air, obviously, but this is my 1940 Ford pickup. Blew it up on Miles of Mayhem last year, and it's been sitting on the hoist ever since. So hopefully we'll get this transmission in there and maybe be able to test drive this thing today. Never know. Now begins the battle of fitting that all the way up in here, which is quite a tight fit, I might add. So a whole mess of wiring and lines and everything else, but I'll get it in there. Alright, so probably, or the first and probably the biggest dilemma with doing this is I don't have a proper transmission jack. So it's always a bit of a battle getting this transmission in and out. What I've actually got to do is get the transmission and this table underneath the truck, and then I'm going to take a floor jack, try and balance the transmission on the floor jack on the table, lower the hoist down so that I can get enough reach with the floor jack to get it up in there and hopefully get a couple of bolts in. So it's always a bit of an adventure, but it's worked before. Kind of sketchy, but it'll work out. So I hope anyway. Fingers crossed. Okay, so this is the sketchiness I'm talking about. So I need to lower the hoist down so I can barely get myself under here, and then I'll have enough travel with the jack to get the transmission up in there and hopefully get a bolt or two started. So we'll see how that goes. Alright, well, that was an absolute battle, but it is kind of sitting in there. Still got to put a few more bolts in the bell housing, and I haven't even really begun to put the back of the frame back together. I just put a couple of bolts in it to support the back side of the transmission. So didn't film as much as I probably should have, but I didn't think you'd want to hear me grunting and swearing for an hour or two, because that's literally how long it took me to battle to get that thing in there. I ended up having to notch the frame a little bit more just to make some more room, but not in a way that it's going to affect the structure of the truck anyway. So yeah, I guess I will just keep going here. I've got to put the frame back together. There's a U-piece that goes in here. That all bolts together. My e-brake cable bolts up there. So yeah, lots of little stuff to do. Then I'm going to pull the pan down and I'll put the filter in and all that good stuff. Gasket. Throw some oil in it. I'll have to hook up the torque converter. Yeah, lots and lots of little stuff. So I will keep going here. Okay, well, the battle continues. Transmission is completely supported now. Bolted to the engine. I've got the frame back together mostly. Still have to put the e-brake bracket up there, but that's minor. A little bit of wiring to do. I gotta fix my exhaust because it cracked out. Got these here, so I'm gonna weld in some flex pipe there. Ignore those horrible welds. Yeah, weld some flex pipe in there, so hopefully that doesn't crack again. And then yeah, I've got, like I said, wiring, Got to put the drive line in yet. Obviously there's no fluid in it. Starter's hanging down. Just little odds and ends, but it's coming together. Oh yeah. The transmission cooler lines. One of those coolers goes here. Other one hangs off of these brackets here. And then obviously to the radiator up front as well. So 3 coolers for the transmission, which hopefully won't be necessary anymore, but I'm not pulling them out now. So yeah, I will keep working away here and update you when I make a little bit of progress. Yeah, so with these, this is the little flex pipe pieces I bought. I'll just cut a chunk out of the pipe there and weld those in, and hopefully that'll give it enough flexibility that'll quit cracking my headers and quit cracking the exhaust. So I'm thinking I have to weld my headers up as well, because looking at my tune, last year it was running lean, but that doesn't look lean to me. So obviously it's pulling air and affecting the tune. So I've got to deal with that as well. But baby steps, one thing at a time. Okay, so I am making some progress here. Transmission's fully in now. I still need to put the drive shaft in and route the dipstick tube. My next project is going to be to mount the coolers. So we'll get that done, and then I'll be able to start adding fluid to the transmission and test this thing. Once I verify that that's all good, then I can start modifying the exhaust, fix that, and yeah, we should be done. Able to go for a drive. So looking forward to that, but I will keep working here. Got the shifter all mounted, linkage hooked up, so that's all good to go. Just gonna leave the tunnel and the carpet and everything out of it for now, but yeah, it's definitely coming together. All right, that's got the coolers in, both those bolted down, it's all plumbed in, drive shaft's in. So I think I'm officially done underneath as far as the drivetrain goes. Still obviously have to do that exhaust, but I want to get this thing running first, so now I can start putting fluid in the transmission and hopefully fire this thing up. Well, got the flex pipes welded in. Actually going to work pretty good. Quite a bit of movement there, and I see that my 3-bolt flanges on the headers are a little bit loose, which is where my air is coming from, so I'll just pull those down, put new gaskets in, and yeah, so I can drop this thing down and continue adding transmission fluid. Very soon I'll be able to test drive it, so hopefully this works out. Do a little cold start. See if she fires up. So I've got interiors back in it. Just took it for a quick test rip. And it went okay. Didn't go great. The transmission feels fine. But I've got intermittent VSS. So in order to shift properly, this thing needs to see speed and RPM. Well, if it's only getting RPM, not speed, it doesn't want to shift. When I get going faster, the VSS picks up and then it starts to shift. So it could be the tone wheel, it could be the sensor itself. I got to dig into that. All right, I'm not sure how easy this is going to be to show on camera, but there's a speed sensor up against the frame there. So I've got to take this plate off, lower the transmission down in the back, or tilt everything back low enough that I can get at the sensor through this hole. And then I'm hoping it's just a sensor. I got a new one. So I'll change that, and then, well, it doesn't feel loose, but there's a leak on my flanges. So I've got new gaskets for those 3-bolt flanges. So I'll unbolt them, drop that down, change those out, and hopefully that will fix my tune. But yeah, main concern is getting that sensor to read. So I will work on that first. Hopefully that solves my problem. So yeah, with the plate off, let's drop below the frame. I can sneak in there with a 10 mil, kind of, and get that off, and I'll be able to pull the sensor out. So I'm hoping it's been magnetized and there's a bunch of crap on it. I'm hoping that's all it is. Like I said, either way, I got a new sensor here, so we'll try that, go for a test drive, see if it makes a difference. Well, here are the old gaskets. I am not surprised that those were leaking. That one's oblong, they're both completely flat, crushed. That one's kind of oblong too and cracked. So yeah, new gaskets are in. Got that all tightened up. New sensors in the transmission, so I can drop this thing down off the hoist and do another test drive. All right, you'll have to excuse me. I've had a day. So I fixed the exhaust. New gaskets, that sealed everything up there, so I'm sure my tune will start to correct itself now. I'll have a look at it with the laptop, but yeah, whatever. Neither here nor there. New speed sensor. It's better, but not 100%. When I tested it yesterday, after first getting everything in there, speedo would not work below, say, 50, 60K. Now, on acceleration, doesn't really kick in until maybe 20K. And decel kicks out at like 10K. It just like pauses and then drops to 0. So, back to the drawing board on that one. Success. So obviously I got it running. All it was the speed sensor wasn't fully seated. I actually had to bend the bracket just a little bit to give it a little more pressure to hold it into the transmission flush. Once I did that, works fine. So transmission shifts great. Kind of in cruise, it slams into gear a little harder than I like, but that's you gotta expect that when we drilled it out for full race mode. But under throttle, it feels phenomenal. So, yeah, I couldn't be happier. A couple little things to fix yet. The transmission fans are kicking on and off at odd temperatures, so I might have a switch failing or a short, intermittent short or something there. Gonna look into that wiring issue, and well, there was one other thing. Oh yeah, my headlights. I gotta clock my headlights. Other than that, she's good to go. So I am super fired up about that. Now I'm actually going to end this video. So as always, I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. I'm Ryan. This is 780 Speed and Custom. Tuning out.